think we're about at the bottom of the hour, at least according to my watch. I'd like to call to order the December 15th Peachtree City Planning Commission meeting for this evening. If all in attendance would please rise and join me in pledging allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and go right along. Any announcements for this evening?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay. Any presentations?
No, sir.
Okay. I know we do have a change to the agenda. We do see the difference in the agenda as to what was posted online. The agenda was posted online has an item 5, which is public comment. That has not yet been finalized between staff and council and the various commissions. So that has been removed from the actual agenda for this evening.
Yes,
Is there anything else we need to do with that?
No, sir, just acknowledge
Just acknowledge it? Okay, great, thank you. So that's agenda changes. Any other changes to the agenda?
Further down, you'll see that an applicant has asked to have an item postponed.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so we don't have an exact date on that yet.
No, sir, we will be meeting with the applicant sometime this week to determine what date would be best to bring back to you.
Okay, perfect.
sir.
That's the Bradshaw Estates?
It's not on tonight?
No, that is correct. It's been postponed. Okay, minutes. So the minutes from the November 10th, 2025 Peachtree City Planning Commission. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to take a look at those. It seems like it's been a little while since we met last. Any comments, questions, additions, deletions to those? No? That being said, do we have a motion to accept the minutes as submitted?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the previous meeting's minutes as provided to us in writing.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a second. So we have a motion to accept as submitted, or approve as submitted, and we have a second. Any other discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the November 10th, 2025 Planning Commission signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes approved as submitted. Okay, old agenda items. Discuss text amendment to the Land Development Ordinance, specifically Article 11, Vegetation Protection and Landscape Requirements. And we have Kenneth Hamner, but I'm going to turn that over to staff to start, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, sir. This item originally came to you all a few months back. It was a discussion that was had to ask for it to be drafted by Mr. Hamner, and so we have since met with him as far as with staff and city manager to give direction and where the city wants to see this move forward. As you may recall, this was initiated by both city council and the planning commission, and so Mr. Hamner has done an amazing job with providing information to you, and I'll pass it over to him to present it.
All right, thank you very much. Here, let me move this real quick. Awesome. So I'm going to go through this presentation. I'm going to go ahead and say, if there's questions, comments, or anything like that throughout this, feel free to chime in on it, so this can be an open discussion on this. Also gave you guys, and also city staff as well, a cheat sheet as to everything that I'm about to talk about right now. I have this lovely one-sheet summary, which is 5 pages, I think, and the ordinance is 4 pages. So it's a little bit longer, but covers a lot of the material that I'm going to talk about right now. And of course, you can reference the ordinance. There's going to be screenshots throughout this whole thing as well, so you're going to be able to see a lot of this, but it's there in paper form for you as well. All right. I don't think I have the
They're
clicker.
both the same. This is the ordinance. This is the summary.
In terms of changing slides. What's that?
You just say next slide.
All right, sure. All right, so yeah, we can go ahead and get started. Nope,
They
okay.
got it for you.
That's cool. It's all good. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so just to give a very high-level overview in terms of what I'm about to talk about, I'm going to give an executive summary of the current version of the ordinance as it's written right now. Then we're going to review the current version of the draft memo and the proposed ordinance. and then and then also there's been some comments and concerns raised throughout this process about certain elements of what's has been written within it. So I'm going to bring those up. That includes things from city staff in terms of what they said, and then also possible approaches to addressing some of the concerns as well, so that we're not just presenting a concern, we're presenting a solution to that concern as well.
Can I just ask you one quick question?
Please go ahead.
What prompted this, since I'm brand new on the commission?
Yeah. So city council and some members of the community have talked about native plants and bringing that, formalizing an approach for us to talk about how we can get rid of invasive species and also promote the use of native plants within the greater community, which is actually a great segue for the executive summary. So I'll reference this as well, as that this is a text amendment that we're discussing right now to Article 11, which is the vegetation protection and landscape requirements on this. And again, it's to encourage requiring native plants to reduce long-term, to do everything from reducing long-term maintenance costs associated with water, chemicals, replacement plants, et cetera, and then also improving just our ecological resilience as well on this. And this would apply to commercial, industrial, and institutional developments, and also city projects like parks, streetscapes, et cetera. Want to be really clear on this, as that this is exempt from this is individual, is residential, like yards, and also golf course playing surfaces, things like that. The things that we're going to talk about right now, the key standards of this is, it's recommending, the way that this is written right now is saying 100% native for buffers, certain zones and city projects, 75% native for general commercial institutional landscapes, excluding approved themed gardens, which we're going to talk about quite a bit in just a moment as well, and then also prohibiting and having a strict ban on anything invasive, Bradford pears, bamboo, et cetera, on that. But at the same time, this is going to have some flexibility measurements in it. Again, themed gardens up to 10% of the site, as it's currently written right now, could be non-native for specific design themes like Oriental gardens, and then also functional exceptions. So, for example, staff could approve specific non-natives for screening where natives aren't feasible. That's the overview of this. We're going to go in a lot more details. Any questions on any of this so far? Perfect. All right. So within the ordinance as it's written right now, I'm going to have a screenshot on the right-hand side of each slide of this. And again, it's in the materials as well that you guys have right now. I'm going to have a section summary and then also a rationale. I'm going to go through this semi-quick on this because, again, I think you can read this. I'm not going to read it to everybody on this. So really what section 1134, which is the first part of the ordinance as it's written right now, it talks about the purpose of this. And again, it's about promoting ecological balance, water conservation, and also allows us to be more fiscally responsible moving forward. And the rationale behind this is it explicitly links, it's saying that this ordinance is going to explicitly link environmental goals with economic outcomes on this. And also, this is really important. This is clarifying policy to reduce long-term maintenance costs associated with irrigation and chemical use, while ensuring new standards reinforce rather than conflict with existing city codes. The next section of the ordinances is written right now is about the applicability of it. So this section says that this is going to apply to all development and redevelopment projects that require landscape plans for city review. That means commercial, office, industrial, and institutional developments, as well as subdivision common areas and parking lots. It excludes it explicitly includes public projects as parks, roadways, stormwater basins, et cetera. On that, the rationale is again for this section is just to say that it's targeting the high impact regulated landscapes where professional planning and city review are already occurring, and it also obviously includes public projects as well.
Question?
Yeah, go ahead.
On the exemptions, being only residential, that's exempted, I guess, is that right?
That's the way it's written right now, correct.
Does that include apartment complexes, condominium complexes, townhouse developments?
It applies to anything as commercial, industrial. So if those are listed, or if those are zoned that way, then they would apply to it.
Are condominiums, apartment buildings zoned commercial?
Sorry, we were chatting about the ordinance. I apologize. What was the question?
I was asking that these regulations don't apply to residential.
No.
Okay, does that include apartment complexes, condominium developments, townhouse developments?
So typically, those are identified as commercial.
They are, okay.
So I would identify that to be the same, but that could spell out in the ordinance. Since we're the actual authors of the file, we can identify if we would like for it to be the same.
Okay.
So it depends on you all how you would like to see it. Again,
No,
council
it wasn't clear to me, but
understood.
It's fine.
So being that he drafted, I think he was probably the best to answer that question.
Yeah, right now, this does not cover any residential. So if it's zoned residential, then this
it would
doesn't
not cover
apply.
it. Okay.
Yep. All right, so this is a really important part right here. So this is saying about the standards and saying exactly where this is going to apply on this. It goes into more detail on it. So this section says that 100% native planting are required for buffers, stormwater facilities, and city-owned projects. For general, commercial, and institutional landscapes, at least 75% native planting is required. However, there is text that explicitly states that approved special purpose gardens are excluded from this percentage calculation on this. And that it also says that the special purpose gardens are allowed to be, have primary non-native, or can be primary non-native, provided that they are capped at 10% of the total site on that.
So, can I speak to this point?
Please go ahead.
So my concern with this point is that for general commercial use, at least 75% of native plants are required. The way I read this over the weekend is that for special purpose gardens, they're at a 90% restriction rate. They can only have 10% of their property have that Japanese or Oriental garden that we've talked about so many times.
So let's go ahead and jump to that concern real quick. So for theme gardens, the way that this is written right now, obviously one commissioner, hello, expressed concern that specific design concepts such as ornamental or theme gardens might be effectively prohibited under a strict native plant requirement. So the way that this is written under 136B4, it does allow for special purpose gardens up to 10% of the total area of the site on that. That as well, the way that it's written says that the 75% that would be the extra 25% that could be non-native does not factor into the 10%. So 10% of the total area could be like a specialty garden on that, and then that then takes that that percentage out of the total property, and then the other part, the rest of it can be up to 25% non-native.
So I'm not following.
Neither.
Yeah, no, it's complex. So let's say there's a number 100 in terms of associated with the total property on this. Okay, so 10% of it can be, of that total property, can be a specialty purpose garden. Everything that, you've highlighted in the past on that.
Mhm.
So that leaves the remaining 90%. 75% of that 90% can then be has to be native. And then the additional 25% of that 90 can then be non-native on that. So it's almost like you're carving out, again, 10% of the total property to do anything like a memorial garden, a specialty garden, et cetera on that.
So I understand now what you're saying, but it's not clear to me from the way that this is written that that's the case. If I was reading it as is, I would say the way it's written makes me think that I can do 10% for a special purpose garden and 25% for something else, which means if I'm doing a special purpose garden, that I can do 10% plus 25%, which equals 35% of non-native.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying it's 10% plus 75% of the 90%. I worry about applicants coming to us and having
Yeah.
trouble also understanding.
Yeah, no, so on section 136A2,
Okay.
that's where it kind of spells it out right
Okay.
there. So let me read that. At least 75% non-native
Excluded. I
native
see, I
planting.
see. Okay, yeah.
Approved special gardens per subsection B shall be excluded from the percentage calculation.
I don't love that piece. I think it's
Yeah.
just going to be difficult to piece together, not only from an applicant standpoint, but also from a staff standpoint, to really kind of count every tree and everything you know, we're gonna have to do that anyway. But it just seems to me overly restrictive. That would be my opinion, and I'm looking forward to hearing the opinions of my fellow commissioners. But I don't want to stop your presentation.
No,
on
no,
that
this is
point.
a discussion, so you're
Yeah,
good to go.
yeah.
I think this is the only area where we aren't in 100% agreement.
Sure.
Because if it's a city-owned property, roadway, community space, we all agree that non-native and used Georgia, invasive plants are not allowed, and we should be using native plants
Sure.
in that area. It's these specialty areas, and don't even know why when I was writing this and reading your proposal, which again is really well written for the most part. The math always escapes me.
Yep.
I was thinking about what if somebody wanted to put in a Margaritaville Jimmy Buffett-based restaurant, and 75% of it has to be pine trees and native plants, and then you can have one palm tree out front to designate that it's a Miami-based themed restaurant. So I go back to my original concern. One, I don't see a reason other than preference why any such space, 100% of it, the property that they bought, that they own, that's not next to the roadway or next to a water area, can't be what they want it to be, one. And then two, as I read further through this, placing the responsibility on staff to use their judgment as to whether that's a worthwhile endeavor. Because we talk a lot about replacing, if you want this plant, we, instead of encouraging you, we're going to insist that you replace it with a Georgia native plant, unless you have a special requirement. And now we're asking staff to just determine whether that special requirement is worthy or not and make an arbitrary decision. So I think this issue largely, again, you've got great information here. I honestly think it's just an opinion-based, should we have 100% native plants within the confines of the city, or is there room for a business to come in with a Japanese garden-themed landscape or a Margaritaville-themed landscape without us putting restrictions on it?
Sure.
Especially excessive restrictions.
Sure. I think you're touching on something that's really important. You said a moment ago, you know, this is like a bit of an opinion on it. Absolutely. This is, you know, again, obviously you could argue either way in terms of being like, hey, they bought the property, they can do with it what they want, versus, hey, you know, as a community, we care about the ecological and obviously the financial aspect associated with these as well. So, I mean, this conversation is really about like, you know, where do we want to settle on
Okay,
that?
I'm going to back you up on one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I have a question about this. It's not hypothetical.
Yep.
Educate me. If somebody has that said restaurant, where is it? We talk about fiscal responsibility. Where is that our responsibility? Long-term maintenance costs are not our responsibility. It's the restaurant's responsibility. Explain that piece to me.
That point is more about like I would argue about the public land on that, because obviously there's taxpayer money that's going into those plants. Now, if it's on a private property, you know, again, like a commercial property, plant dies, you know, of course they're going to be paying
Right.
for it. But there's things beyond just the financial responsibility of it as well. I mean, obviously there's the chemicals, there's the wildlife that you know, obviously relies on a lot of the native plants that go in our community. It's also as well about like, you know, how do we want to present our community in general? Like, do we want it to have, you know, like, for lack of a better way to describe it, this is more generalizing, do we want it to have like a uniform view and presentation that is native? Or do we want to have a Jimmy Buffett restaurant with palm trees and then a Japanese restaurant with, you know,
Whatever
Oriental?
Japanese restaurant.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, this discussion is important because, again, it says, like, how do we want to define our community on this? I think you pose a good point in terms of being like, it's their property. You know, they can do with it what they want. But at the same time, you know, obviously there's cons that come with that as well. And if we're talking about this ordinance in terms of being like, you know, hey, we're a community that really cares about native plants and the ecological benefits that come from it, then this ordinance really strengthens that. So again, it's a matter of, do we want to have autonomy for, somebody who owns a property that is in a certain zoning of it? Or do we want to have the ecological benefits and financial benefits as well that also come with all this?
Yeah.
So that's at the root of all this. The way that this is written, because again, obviously we've talked a lot about this up on here, but then
At home, yeah.
at home, on this. So the way that this is written right now is, again, to lack of a better word, it's a compromise on it. It's still trying to find a way to be like, how can we give the opportunity to do a special purpose garden on this without undermining the overall ordinance and the benefit that it brings to our community. So again, it's either, we could either go all my way or all your way or somewhere in between. I would argue
I want the somewhere
Yeah.
in between. I
Yeah.
just don't feel that.
So I guess my question to you is like, what do you see as a somewhere in between on this?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of, these commercial developments could be a 1 acre development, could be a half an acre development, could be a 20 acre development. So from a scale, do we apply this to a minute level of development, or do we apply it mainly to larger developments? And then it goes to enforceability. How do we enforce
Correct me if
that?
I'm wrong here, Ken, but it looks like the way that you've drafted it is it's applicable writ large to any,
Correct. It's
Yeah.
by the zone.
yeah.
By the zone. It seems to me a little bit overburdensome when you're talking about small postage stamp type commercial developments.
Properties.
That's just my opinion.
Sure.
And then how do you enforce something like this? I guess through the plan review process?
Well, the landscape
review.
plan would have to be
Yep.
submitted and
Yeah, it's a-
approved, right?
A going forward enforcement kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add to the ring my opinion here that, we had this hotel that came through that had a really fantastic design, quite honestly, with their landscape planning. And I think this would stop them from doing what they were going to be doing there. And I think that's not exactly the direction that I gleaned from that conversation that we want to go to as a commission. That being said, I think there's a lot of benefits here, right? I do
Yeah.
believe strongly that, there are significant community benefits to encouraging native plants, and I think we should still do that. But one of the things that I had mentioned in that previous discussion was possibly incorporating incentives towards higher percentages of native plants instead of maybe mandating a certain percentage, right? So, from my perspective, I think this 75%, 10% thing is great because I understand the goals of it. But from my standpoint, I would much rather see a lower required percent overall with let's get rid of the special purpose garden things to get rid of the confusion that might be had when an applicant brings something, either for the applicant or for staff. So this is just an idea, and once again, I'm very interested in the rest of the opinions from the commission, but I'd love to see, instead of 75%, we say 60%, and then we eliminate the section about the special purpose gardens. And then, it's really just if someone wants to use 40% of their property for something really cool and different, they have the ability to do that. That would be my suggestion. And then on top of that, in order to incentivize a greater usage of native plants, maybe we could say if you have at equal to or greater than 80%, maybe there's a reduction in the contribution to the tree fund if someone doesn't meet the canopy requirements for that particular property. We've seen a lot of folks come in lately, at least in the last year or so, with tree fund contributions because the way that the land that they're developing is situated, it doesn't allow for the kind of canopy inches that we're requiring for that acreage. So for me, to address the concerns of hey, this is not exactly fair for the smaller properties versus the larger properties, I think an incentive would be great And then maybe just simplifying it to a smaller percentage. That would be my idea, but I'm interested in the thoughts of my fellow commissioners. Sorry to stop you.
No, you're fine. This is the point of this. so
Yeah,
You're good.
yeah.
Pull the thread on something you said. I kind of like the idea of the incentives piece. And I'm curious if Joe Millionaire comes in and wants 100% of his land to be, is there a way to, okay, you do that, but there's going to be a disincentive? You know, it's going to cost you X more to do that rather than just planting a native plant. My two concerns, one is the burden lying on staff to make arbitrary decisions. I think that I spent 20 years in management in the federal government working on systemic problems and trying to create nationwide decisions where somebody in California couldn't make a different decision than New England. And so that's my biggest concern is arbitrary decision making. The second piece is I look at the ownership rights of the business. All that said, if there was a way to incorporate that type of monetary disincentive, I would like it. Otherwise, I fall, if we had to vote right now, I'd go with your version, Andrew. I like the larger percentage being allotted. And again, Ken comes with a myriad of great reasons for this to happen. My two concerns are ownership's rights. It's not ecological. It's just these also to be considered.
Well, I think it goes, in your mentioning ownership, I mean, that goes back to any of the ordinances we have. And that's why we have ordinances, because we have certain ways that we want to see things. But we do give latitude as to, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing the UDO, and that's one of the reasons why we worked on, you know, the 54 West, really was to open up, in some ways, creative juices, you know, for developers to come in and say, well, before it had to be 700 denier fabric for canopies, and that's what they had to use. And they had to use this type of lighting, which is no longer produced. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to say, hey, it should be this type of lumens. We would like to see LED. That's what we really pushed for. But come back to us with some different designs. As long as they fell within these bounds, we're not going to tell you exactly this light to use. And I don't see that any different than kind of what we're looking at here. I mean, I think the invasive, that's a done deal. I mean,
Yeah.
we look at it and say, hey, we're good with that.
Yeah, agreed.
I would like to see, you know, some type of bounds for we don't have a Wild West sort of thing, but we still give that allowance for people to come in and give us some interesting designs. You know, and I think, you know, I was looking at, you know, 10%, and my question, just to that is that, you know, 10% of plantable area, or is that 10% of the total site area? Because not all the total site area is plantable.
Right.
So that was one of my things in my head.
That
It's
was a
like,
question
okay,
I
if
had as
it's, yeah, if it's 10% of plantable area, well, that's different than, you know, we're looking at 10 acres or 3 acres, and we only have maybe X amount of you know, square feet of plantable area. But I'm definitely for native, absolutely. And I think I'm the same way. I'm trying to figure out how we can put some bounds about it, but still allow some unique designs to happen. You know, again, you know, the hotel was a perfect example. I think they provided a very unique landscaping design that, quite frankly, we haven't seen here before. And it's like, well, how do we still do things like that, but not allow it to go too far? I don't know if 75% is good or bad, if 10% is good and bad. I think there's a number in there somewhere. And I do like the idea more of probably incentivizing than having somebody probably come in, you know, from a major corporation and say, well, hey, you know what? You need $500,000 for me to put whatever plants I want in. Well, here's $500,000 and I get to do what I want to do. I would like to see, you know, maybe something more from an incentivization type that, hey, if you do go more of native, you know, tree fund, you know, would be great, although I hate taking money out of the tree fund, because that's very important to us also. But maybe that's a better way to take a look at something like that.
I thought Andrew's option, we didn't pull the threads on it too hard, but I thought that was an excellent compromise. Took the responsibility off of staff to make the decisions. The numbers are out there, and it gave somebody the option to pay a little more to do what they wanted to do with their property.
And that's not taking away from staff at all. I mean,
No.
Laura
No.
is tremendous in her landscape.
So I don't know who in staff is making those decisions, so it wasn't a shot at anybody.
Laura,
I assumed it was the forest manager, but no.
in that, you know, that's one of the reasons, again, even we're looking at doing a UDO is to try to help staff out, to try to help developers out, to try to help everyday Peachtree City citizens to better understand what needs to be done, what can be done, what can't be done. And I think making this as simple and easy as possible, while still putting those bounds about it, may be the best course to take.
What are your thoughts, Ken?
I want to make sure that we're not undermining the benefits of what an ordinance like this can do. I will say this, you know, 75% is in line with other areas that have similar ordinances to what we're talking about right now. I get skittish about weakening some of these things, and I understand the incentivized component to this as well. And again, you know, I understand property rights associated with this and all that, but like Scott was saying a moment ago, is that these ordinances are to, you know, help define what Peachtree City is. You know, if we look at things like the comprehensive plan and the surveys that happen with that, you know, green spaces is one of the top things that everybody says that they really love about Peachtree City.
Yeah.
And this really strengthens that immensely. And obviously has all the benefits that I've been talking about for months at this point. I obviously, you know, differ in opinion from you guys on this. Obviously, I'm willing to, you know, compromise and all that, but I think that again, I don't want to undermine the full benefits that an ordinance like this can ultimately accomplish for us.
And I guess from the standpoint too, I mean, we look at the ordinances, just as we look at other ordinances, you know, and we've had to go back from recommendations and things over the years, and either tweak it here or tweak it there a bit, you know, and there's always that opportunity to do so. You know, do we look at making something a little not as strict and see what we get, or do we make it a little stricter and then back it off from there if that is the case? Because both are possible. You know, it's going to be a little bit of additional work to do, but both are possible. You know, once this ordinance is passed, it's not that it can't be changed. That's something to think about also, is it does give us a little bit of latitude to see how things come through. Is 75% and 10% too much? And again, you know, the kind of Asian themed, you know, garden that was put in, as far as my time on the commission, that's the first one I've seen like that.
Yeah, we're talking about things that are rare requests overall.
So are we really going to be faced with some really unique things? Maybe, maybe not. I think as we go forward with redevelopment more than new development, which is the bulk of what we're going to be seeing going forward, you know, are there going to be opportunities for things such as that, or is it more of, well, yeah, you know, native plants fit in perfect here, you know, we may want a specimen tree or a specimen plant or a small area, but overall, we're able to go ahead and do native species. So.
Yeah. I think what you've got here, the most important pieces of it, accomplish your goals, right?
I agree.
Yeah, I think getting rid of invasive plants, I think making the city use native plants I think that's gonna be the bread and butter here. And I think the little things, I think the smaller specialty pieces, I think are what we disagree about potentially. The other thing that I'm concerned about is, we talked a little bit about this in one of the recent meetings, unlikely, but what if Peachtree City is gifted a bunch of trees from some other sister city in some other country? The way that it's written right now,
Sure.
would that allow the
I will say
planting?
this, we don't have any sister cities, so that
Yeah.
scenario doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist,
But,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean,
I'm soliciting.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I get it. There could be a
Yeah.
situation that we don't know
Yeah.
on this, but we're also talking hypotheticals and trying to prepare for hypotheticals on this.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Can I make a motion?
sure.
Make a
Well,
comment before you do.
Yeah, please.
Absolutely.
You know,
What
I
would
like
you
the-
prefer, Ken?
the numbers complicate things, in my opinion, okay? I think this thing accomplishes everything you want to accomplish, or that we want to accomplish, which is primarily to disincentivize using invasive plantings. And so, if we keep it simple and we encourage non-invasive plantings in all developments, and then if someone wants to come in with something else, I don't know if you call them special purpose or whatever, they would require approval.
So not invasive, but non-native.
non-native.
Non-native, right,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
I want to be really clear on that. This is,
Yeah.
this is two parts. Obviously, we all agree on the invasive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
component on
just
that.
keep it simple and not get so hung up on 10% or 60% or 75%.
I will say this, this originally began with, let's just go with native plants. The numbers are coming in because we're talking
Yeah.
about
Which-
how can we add some flexibility to this? And obviously, that's complicating the conversation around this. Because again, we're taking into account special purpose gardens, which I'm, not to dog on it too much, because again, I see the benefit of it, absolutely. But how can we incorporate the rare special garden request with, again, the underlying benefits that having native species in Peachtree City will allow us to, that we'll get from it.
Yeah.
Again, this is a community that really cares about green spaces and nature. And this will absolutely serve those things that are incredibly popular around here. So again, I want to make sure, again, this is, obviously I'm a proponent of trying to serve what the community wants when it comes to those things. And the way that this ordinance is mostly written right now is obviously supporting those things. And I want to make sure that we're not, and sorry, I'm going to keep arguing for this. I want to make sure that we're going to pass an ordinance that ultimately reflects what the community values on this. So,
I think everybody's in agreement on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We need something. It's just, I think what percentage we need is gonna be different, as we continue to talk about it.
Sure.
At least that's my opinion.
sure.
Yeah.
All right. So we're only like halfway through this. But no, this is absolutely the biggest part. though.
Yeah.
Let me go back to this real quick.
Yeah.
Which is that, again, it's saying that how do we actually set the standards for an ordinance like this? So this is by far the most important part right here. I think that, obviously, we still have some disagreements in terms of what these numbers are. I think we should have, and I don't know how we'll do this, I think we need to have greater conversations around this. I think that we have some good ideas around this, but I don't know what it concretely would look like on this.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm one person on this, I'm the alternate on this thing, but, so, we'll ultimately need to come to some sort of consensus as a group as to what this is. I don't think we're there yet. I think we need to keep talking about it.
So you don't want me to make my motion?
No, but I mean, you can do what you can motion if you want, but of course,
If you want more time to draft, like to take back our comments and draft again, I think that's fair too. you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
again, obviously, I'll do what the majority wants on this, but I don't even know what that would look like.
Well,
in terms of-
I think right off the bat, I don't, does anyone have any issues with 100% of the native plantings required in buffer stormwater facilities and city-owned projects?
No.
City, the city does. I'm going to talk about that in just a
Okay, well, I think we were all in agreement at the time, so,
I have a small issue with it too, but I already made that note.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
let's keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
Okay, so guys, this is a great conversation.
Yeah.
I'm liking it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the way how it's written right now. So that's the standards right there. Approval of native species, again, the idea behind this is that the city will maintain an approved native plant list, organized by canopy size, et cetera, on that. And the idea, rationale behind that is, again, by having a living list, it helps administratively on this. So that way, again, it's not being, it's a list. It says, here's what a native plant exactly is for Peachtree City. And then obviously the prohibited and invasive species is a robust list of trees, of shrubs, of grasses, et cetera, on this, which, again, I think a lot of us agree on this. The city has reviewed this. I'll come back to that in just a moment. And the way, again, that this would work with other ordinances, that's what section 1139 says on here. So that way, making sure that, again, it works with things that are already on the books for us. Enforcement, there are some things already in Article 11, as I understand it, that can set some of the parameters for enforcement on this. And then again, saying that if the rule is broken on this, that the city may require removal and replacement with approved native species. All right, and budget impact, there's not any. Theme gardens, obviously, we already talked about this. So this section's about addressing concerns on this. The current draft on this, obviously, the theme gardens is something that we've talked about quite a bit. We will continue to do that. The city use of native plants. Okay, so this is what the city came back with. As I said, that Public Works and the city manager preferred not to be included under the native plant requirement, citing a need for operational flexibility and long-term maintenance on this. So my response to that was, again, this is just my opinion. Leading by example is obviously very important. If we determine that native plants are necessary for ecological balance and physical responsibility, the city should also adhere to those standards on that. It doesn't make sense to ask a private developer to do one thing and for the city to do something else. However, there could be we could have blanket exemptions. We could have exemptions to this as well. Like if a specific city project has a unique constraint associated with it, staff could substitute in those things. Using similar things and similar mechanisms as available to private developers on this, but at the same time as well, there may be things, and sorry, I think I mentioned this later in this presentation, there may be things which are just always going to be, necessary in terms of saying like a native plant is not going to be applicable in this certain situation. I don't think it makes sense for the city to have to go back to staff and be like, for every single time, to be like, hey, we need to change out this plan. So we could have some things in here written in a way that is saying that substitution in these scenarios is always available.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Oh, this is exactly what I was talking about just a moment ago. So again, the screening of certain areas is what the city Public Works in particular was really talking about. And we could do this, what I was talking about just a second ago on the other slide, and then section 1137 on this, and add in what I have at the very bottom of this, the example wording on this. The non-bold part is what's in there right now, and then we could add in that bold part right there in order to, again, give the city leeway, and so that way they can do the screening materials appropriately with non-native.
Yeah,
I agree.
I like that bolded section, yeah.
Yep. Sweet gum classification, we had sweet gums as a invasive species. It actually is not invasive, so it was removed from the list on that. It can be annoying, but that doesn't mean it's invasive. We could also, for bamboo and problem species, they noted that certain bamboo species are persistent problems and need explicit regulation on that. So again, we could add that in into the prohibited list. There are certain stormwater and erosion manuals as well that the city called out that say that there's specific requirements that might technically conflict with the ordinance. So the possible approach to this is that we could amend section 1139 to establish clear native preference hierarchy in order to basically be like, if there's this manual that says you need to do this for stormwater and erosion, it would supersede this ordinance in those situations. City staff also brought up that zoning district references sometimes, like it's very broad the way that it's written right now, like general commercial, limited use commercial, etc. So the possible, they were arguing that the specific codes are just not written in a way that really they're really, you know what I'm trying to say.
Encapsulate.
Yeah, thank you. I'm talking a lot. So, okay, so if there's we would rewrite the way how some of these zoning areas are being referenced in order to make sure that the buffer requirements and et cetera are being applied appropriately on this. And also, city staff asked for just better clarity and definitions on some things on this, so we could provide those things as needed. And that was it. So that's the current version of this. Obviously, it's still a work in progress on it. There's still obviously a lot of conversations that need to continue to happen around this. But that's what I got for you tonight.
Very good work.
Yeah, you put a lot of work in this. I really appreciate your work
Yes,
in this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
Absolutely.
doing it. Yeah, I think that we just need to maybe agree upon the right level that we are going to be requiring here. I've stated my preference. I think 60% and getting rid of that 10% garden situation is what I would prefer. But that's just my opinion.
Well, and that's what I put in my proposed motion.
Okay.
If we continued this conversation, I don't know where it would lead. We've got a couple of folks that are in the middle, and you and I are on either end.
Yeah, that's okay. So what I can do is again, obviously we talked a lot about the special gardens, things like that. I can rewrite or adjust the ordinance to include like the bamboo stuff, compatibility with the manuals, et cetera.
Yep.
Like that's all easy enough,
Yeah.
right there. For the next time that we talk about this, again, we've talked a lot about different scenarios. I can make a menu of things that basically be like, on one end, 100% native, the other end, your end, or whatever.
My end.
But basically,
The
like for
rights
us,
of the owner.
what we can do is we can just at least from tonight's conversation just come up with a menu of our options
That's great.
on this, and then let's talk about like where they kind of fall on this, and then we'll come up with some sort of compromise that ultimately we can all.
I think that's good.
I think it's a great idea.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So do we need a motion, or we just move on?
So this is not an action item. This is
Okay.
a discussion. So there's
Great.
no motion needed at the time.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Ken.
All right. Cool. Thank you,
Absolutely.
guys.
Thank you, Kenneth.
May I add one more thing, Chairman?
Absolutely.
In order for this to be an action item, you would need to instruct staff as to when you'll list this as a public hearing, because this would have to be a public hearing before there is an actual vote. So you would need to tell us as to when you would like to see this go on the agenda as, I guess, a public hearing. So for now, if it goes back on the agenda, not ready for it, we'll keep it as discussion until you tell us when.
I think and would hope that when we hit our next commission meeting in January, which will be the next, we'd be able to go ahead and pretty much finalize everything. It would be my
I would hope so.
Yeah, that would be my goal to go
Yeah.
ahead, and it should be our goal to go ahead and do that. So I would say after our next,
Discussion.
our next meeting, we'll have a final at that time.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you all. Okay, on to new agenda items. So we do have two, and the first one is the landscape plan, Peachtree Professional Center, 100 Gates Entry. And I'll hand it over to staff. As soon as staff gets the clicker back.
Okay, as we continue discussions about plants. This property is, just a reminder, located at the south end of town, down here in the Gates subdivision. There we go. It is zoned OI dash C, which is office institutional with conditions. When these two properties were rezoned, there were conditions such as, architectural requirements, maximum size of the buildings, the combination of the two buildings on those office lots. And the only thing that applied as far as landscape goes was, hold on, there we go, was some transition yard requirements. And I'll show you, you can kind of see on here, this is the designated transition yard for this lot, and there's one over here for this lot that we've already reviewed and approved. So here's the plan. And based on the amount of impervious surface area on the project, which is 46,609 square feet, they are required 141 caliber inches of canopy trees and 94 caliber inches of understory trees, and the plan proposes to meet both of those requirements, so no alternative compliance method is being requested here. As part of the ordinance requirements, planting areas shall be located in front and on the sides of the commercial buildings wherever practical, and this proposal does include planting on all four sides of the building, all the way around here. So they're definitely meeting that requirement. Another requirement in the landscape ordinance is the perimeter of all parking lots shall be landscaped with evergreen shrubs for screening of cars and headlights. The applicant is only proposing shrubs to screen the parking lot right here along this line. We did receive a narrative from the landscape designer as to the reason why, and that was included in your packet. The narrative talks about this buffer yard that already exists, that has quite a bit of trees are being proposed, including some evergreens, and there is a slight berm in that buffer area that will screen most of the parking from those neighboring properties, preventing the headlights from shining over. But they identified this section as needing more screening, which is why they're proposing shrubs only in that portion. To wrap it up, 5 out of the 8 species of the proposed canopy trees are native to southeastern United States, for a total of 62% native. And then of the total number of trees provided, that percentage goes down to 41% native to the eastern North America and or the southeastern United States. I did also want to, I left on your desks over there, we're now having the city engineer's office take a quick look at these in case they have any comments to provide. And they did just have a few comments that were related. I know this is very hard to read at this scale. If you don't have your magnifying glass with you, they're basically trying to say that some of the tree groupings need to be shifted a little bit, so there's more of a clearance between some underground pipes, and I will pass that on to them.
For root damage.
Exactly. And that was all the city engineer had. And then, with the exception of the perimeter parking planting, staff feels the proposed landscape plan meets the city ordinances and development requirements.
Can you remind me what's on the southwest corner where they're not putting in the shrubs around the parking lot?
You're saying
Yeah,
over
right now.
here?
What's behind those trees?
Well, there's residential properties,
Okay,
residences that back up to this transition yard.
thank you.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant representative here this evening? Would you please give your name?
Hey, my name is Warren Elwell with All South.
Do you have anything to add to staff's
Uh,
presentation?
Yeah, for sure. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
So the residential area that you're talking about here, there's the existing vegetation on that side. Can you point to that, Laura? On that side has a bunch of existing pine trees along that whole, in that transitional buffer that's already there, as well as some magnolias. There's a lot of plant material currently there on that whole side, on
They're,
that berm.
they're very faint, and you're talking about these and here and
And
all
all
of,
the way around
yeah,
up to
and all
the storm
these.
drain. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
All the way up to the storm drain, the drain easement there. There's a lot.
Okay, so all those
of
little gray
existing-
spots indicate a pre-existing,
Correct.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
And they were survey located trees. And then additionally, there's the highway buffer on the, I guess that's the north side of the property. Yep, up there. There's that's about a 12-foot tall berm with existing magnolias, and I think all of us have driven down 74. There's a large berm there that you can't hardly even see the building of what's there. So those are just working within those perimeters of the existing and adding to that to try to keep headlights from people parking, this time of year. It's 5 o'clock and it's dark. So the one house was the only one that seemed like it was gonna have any kind of visible, headlights. That's why we were adding shrubs along that edge. That other house sits about 10 feet below that other berm. Yep, right there. That's why, we're not proposing any of those shrubs along that parking lot.
So there's a significant down slope there.
Correct.
Okay.
Just on the one on the back. Well, both of them really, but mostly the one on the back is about 15 feet of elevation change.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Going to go ahead and start with Commissioner Gant.
No.
Any questions? Commissioner Allen, questions?
I've already asked my questions.
Okay. Commissioner Kriz, questions?
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Hamner?
All right. Yeah, sorry. I think you know what I'm about to ask. So the non-natives plants, would you be open to working with city staff or proposing any that may be native to our area?
Sure. I would just like a definition of what you're considering to be native, because there's like different zones. There's different, there's a lot of interpretation to native.
Sure. Again, the city staff said a moment ago, there's certain plants that are not native to the southeast on that. So, I think we could be, I know I would be comfortable possibly with something that's, native to Georgia, obviously to this area on that. But, if you can work with city staff as well, just to possibly even just do the southeast, that could be good.
For sure.
And a question for me, is there any issues with what the city engineer is proposing to move the trees, to relocate those away from the drainage pipes? Any?
I honestly didn't know that until this moment, so I
Okay.
don't know the answer to that. It shouldn't be any issues. I would try to plant everything outside of their easements.
Right.
The only main, I know that the neighborhood was concerned about at the entrance where it goes in, there are some trees that need to be put back that were removed during that construction to create that access. But mostly, yeah, we can move. Those can be moved on the plan and essentially in the field, just with those storm drains and sewer
Yeah.
drains field located.
It looks like, I think, two of them are 10-foot separation away from the pipe.
Yeah.
And then I think the one that's up the right-hand side along Gates entry, I think they're just looking at, they're preferring 5-foot separation. So
Gotcha.
gets a little tighter up in that area, but
Yeah, and 5 feet and 10 feet is really tough to just show on that
Right,
plan versus
right.
out being out in the field, but we
Yep.
can certainly note that.
okay. Trying to think there's anything else.
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
Well, with regard to Ken's concerns about native, I believe there are several plants located in this buffer that are like some of the evergreens that are not native. And I just want to make sure that there are suitable substitutes.
Right.
And, if not, if they still feel these are the best solution, do you want them to prepare some kind of letter or comment response to keep those as substitutions for native plants? I guess I'm just looking for a more specific condition when you make it.
I think as of right now and, not having a true ordinance in place, I think what right now is what we're doing is we're making a suggestion.
Yeah.
If you can find something that is a good substitute from something that has a possible native replacement, please work with staff to do that. If what you have shown is the best for the application, because of whatever criteria that you have to have there, then please use that. I think that's really what we're looking at. But if there are opportunities, we would definitely suggest that you explore those.
Of course, yeah, I mean, I think the goal there is to have, we want it, the owner wants it to look good, the city wants it to look good. We want things that are, gonna be viable and survive, as well as, have good ecological impacts on the town and
Perfect.
the area.
Great. Thank you. Any other
I would
comments?
echo your comments. I would encourage you to use as many as possible native specimens.
Commissioner Allen, anything else?
No, sir.
No? Commissioner Chris?
Nothing further from me.
Commissioner Hemner?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have a motion from the dais?
Move approval.
If that's where we want to go.
With the recommendations or encouragement to apply or to add as many native plants as possible to the plan.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve with this recommendations or suggestion to go ahead and use as many native plants as possible. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve with suggestions for native plants and a second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, do we also need a condition for the trees that are on the
Not
pipes?
necessarily. It's a review comment. So
okay, so that's already
That's
covered.
more coming from the city,
Okay,
from that standpoint.
Staff review,
From staff
yeah.
review.
okay, great.
Okay.
Nothing further.
Okay. That being said, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved with suggestions for native plants. Thank you. Okay, and we have our last of the new agenda items, which is the building elevation modifications, Chick-fil-A 1222 Highway 74 South. And turn it back to staff.
So just a reminder, I think you're all familiar with where this is located. Again, at the south end of town, just up the road from the Gates Entry subdivision, is the Chick-fil-A Zone GC General Commercial. It is also required to follow the Wilshire Pavilion design guidelines. So this is the existing materials and colors of the building. Just as a reminder, since many of you on the board weren't here for previous approvals, this property recently underwent some renovations for an expansion to the building and also to modify the drive-through and parking area to accommodate a double-lane drive-through with new drive-through canopies. These modifications were approved back in 2023. And along with the modifications, the Planning Commission that was present at the time approved color changes for the upgrades, and that was also back in 2023. They waited quite a bit to undergo these renovations, and so they were only recently painted the approved colors, which were these, and then repainted without your approval. So what we're bringing you tonight is the colors that were used and a request to keep those colors. It was at the time that these were approved 2-3 years ago, these were the standard Chick-fil-A colors. And I guess that has recently changed, thus the request for this look. And the difference being, here's a comparison. These two colors no longer exist. They still have this as a trim color. And then this West Highland white is the proposed, the new color, which is described by Sherwin-Williams as white with a hint of creaminess. I love looking at their website at how they describe the colors. It's very
They're
helpful.
great, yeah.
And then for comparison, this is the color swatch page from the Wilshire Pavilion Materials palette. And it does include a sort of a creamy white, off-white color, two colors here. Nothing about the materials was changed, just the colors. And interestingly, I came across pictures of what it used to be before the darker colors were approved. So it actually is now more aligned with what it originally was painted. And then just for reference, here's the colors on the shopping center. So it's a bit of a darker beige or sort of off-white creamy color. And then just as a reminder, I did not bring pictures of these, but there are in your packet. Over the last maybe 2 years, the Planning Commission has approved some other buildings on properties where these design guidelines apply, has approved a sort of a whitish, creamy whitish color. And that would be across the road from here. Let me just go back to the map real quick. Across the road here at the gas station, convenience store, and then these two properties here with the medical office and the child daycare facility all have similar off-white, creamy white colors that were approved. Just to wrap it up, let's see. We'll go. Oh, sorry. Back to the current views. The Land Development Ordinance establishes general goals for architectural design, including compatibility with surrounding development and architectural innovation. Color requirements are also established, and that states that the predominant color should be neutral or earth tones. High-intensity colors like metallic, black, or fluorescent should not be used. Staff feels the current paint color for the Chick-fil-A is neutral, similar to other colors approved in the recent past for nearby properties in this design guideline area. Approval is at your discretion.
Thank you, staff. Do we have a representative of the applicant? If you could please give your name and who you represent.
Andrew Moth. I'm here with Chick-fil-A.
Sure, sir. Okay, great. Thank you. Do you have anything else to add to staff's presentation?
I'm here on behalf of the facilities maintenance. I handle 80 Chick-fil-A's from Thomaston all the way up to Dalton. So this is our new, I know it's taken a while, but it is our new design spec. I've painted half a dozen others. We have a cadence where the restaurants are remodeled and refreshed, and this is going to be the new color that you'll be seeing at the Chick-fil-A's, other than like a Line Creek that's all brick, that won't have it, but any building that has the stucco like this, that is our design going forward.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open it up for comments of the applicant or staff. Commissioner Hamner.
I would just say overall, the building looks good with the change. And this may be echoed in a moment, but obviously, having the approval after it's done is not ideal.
That is 100% I coming from the avenue, I used to manage the avenue, and I should have known better, and it did not cross my mind, and I thoroughly apologize for that.
Understood. Yeah. But yeah, I think overall it looks good.
And I should have said any questions than comments. I apologize. And
Oh.
I'm sure you probably have no questions.
No questions.
Okay. So,
Doing both now?
yeah,
Okay.
so we're going to hit questions first. So Commissioner Chris?
So no questions.
Okay.
Comments?
Let's go through and then
Okay.
we'll come back. So Commissioner Allen, any questions?
No question.
Commissioner Gann, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, back to Commissioner Chris. Comments?
Yeah, just a really nice job, Laura, with the presentation. Just, it was really, really nice to see all the pictures of the surrounding buildings and the Wilshire complex. I actually think that this new design looks more in line with the overlay requirements that are there. So I think it's great, and I'm, once again, happy to see any reinvestment in the community. Thank you for coming, even though it was late, but we do appreciate that. So no further comments from me.
Commissioner Allen, comments?
I made a career off of asking for forgiveness rather than permission, so I'm okay with it.
Commissioner Gann?
Ditto.
I do have to say, I love the color. I think it's very, very good, and I agree. I think it goes back to, it matches closer to what the original color scheme was before it went to the darker. And I think it's a very good complement to the buildings in the Wilshire Pavilion area, as well as the properties that are across 74. My biggest issue with it is, and I'm going to admit, I'm a bit disappointed. This is the third property that we've had come through that has been painted without getting approval. The last two, they were fairly basic new building owners, property owners, and they came back and said, well, we didn't know any better, which that I had a little bit of a difficulty because they owned other properties in other jurisdictions. And I asked the question, do you go back and get approval for doing what you did? And they said yes. And I said, well, what made you think this was any different? And this is nothing personal, please, against you, but or Chick-fil-A. But I do have a bit personally of some expectations, especially with how we handle things. Again, I don't have an issue with the colors or anything, but one of the things we've actually discussed after this has kind of happened, we really don't have anything in place for any type of, I don't want to say fines sort of thing, because that may be not the right term for it, but some type of consequences for, exactly, thank you, for this happening. And I do have a bit higher expectation for Chick-fil-A. As you said, you've done this to at least a half a dozen other properties, and I would assume they have similar requirements or things that have to go through to do it. And I just think going forward, we really need to look as part of when we work on the UDO, to put something in place for situations such as this. I think it's really important that, well, we put a little bit of teeth behind, the requirements and the ordinances that we have. So I do appreciate you coming forward and bringing this. Thank you for doing that. It really does mean a lot that you've recognized, that it wasn't in compliance. So thank you for that. But it's something that, as you go forward, please, make sure that you take a look at what's required before anything like that happens. So,
Yes, sir.
Sure, thank you. Okay. Any other comments, questions? No? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the building modifications, Chick-fil-A 1222, Highway 74 South?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the building as already painted to Chick-fil-A 1122 Highway 74 South.
Absolutely. So we have a motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a second. Any other discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. The building elevation modifications, Chick-fil-A 1222, Highway 74 South, is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we don't have any public hearings. Any other member staff topics?
No, sir.
Okay.
I just have one question. I think it's been a while since we've discussed this, but I brought up the golf cart ordinance. Was there something that I had to do to move that forward? And where does that stand currently?
Got it. So your last meeting, you made a motion to take it over to council.
Yep.
So as you may be aware, we have a new council member.
Yep.
And so staff is preparing a summary of text amendments that we will be bringing to council.
Great.
And so that we are not overwhelming him with the number of items that we have, it'll be just a summary discussion for one of the first January meetings. So it is on that list with the other items, for example, the cosmetic tattooing and roof signs, things of that nature. I did not move those forward until he became on board. And so now that he's on board, we'll take those to the council so they can move forward those actions that you've recommended.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir, no problem.
Okay. So the next meeting was supposed to be the 22nd. Of course, that's been canceled. So our first meeting of 2026 will be January 12th. So look forward to that. Before we adjourn, just want to say a couple things. First, want to really appreciate all the hard work that the commissioners have done this year. We've had a lot of changes as we've gone through 2025. We had some new people come on. We've had some people leave. So it's really good with all your hard work and your input. Really helps the city out. I want to thank staff for all the hard work that you do and the hours that you put in. Everyone, thank you very much for everything that you do.
Thank you.
And want to thank council for everything that they do for all of us and the support that they give us, throughout our time on the Planning Commission. And I want to thank, just the citizens of Peachtree City for being involved in the process, especially in public hearings. This is your opportunity to have your voices heard. So definitely, appreciate all the input, that you provide. We do take everything that you bring to us seriously. It does help us make decisions and recommendations for the things that we do back to staff and back to council. So thanks everyone out there for all of that. And in closing, I just want to say happy holidays and a very happy new year to everyone. And we'll see everyone in 2026. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.